fighter, are you ready? Are you ready? Let's do this!
Hi, family. Welcome back and welcome to this week's episode of the Gold Corner. Once again, I just want to say thank you for all the love and support. By the time this video does air, it would have already been Thanksgiving. So I hope everybody had a good Thanksgiving. For those parents that are currently battling, such as we are, I hope that you were kind to yourself, and I hope that you had some time to relax and just take it easy and just reflect on the blessings that you do have right now. Thank you again for all the support. We're getting a lot of new followers, a lot of new subscribers to the YouTube channel, and also to our support group, the Gold Corner on Facebook. So once again, thank you so much for that. This week, we have another amazing story. This week, I had the opportunity of 2 weeks ago, we featured the Lincolns that shared their story, their warrior story here with us. And from that, I actually had the opportunity to talk to Danny. Danny reached out to me and we talked a little bit more. And he mentioned something that's very true. He did say that speaking about our children who have passed is really therapeutic. It does help, when we speak about them. And as I mentioned in other videos, whenever we're going through the fight with our children, we have a lot of support. And it seems that when the child passes, that support is not there anymore. We still have support, but not the way we used to. And it's one of those things that that support is what keeps us going. That support is what helps us, especially when we speak about our children. So we had the opportunity, like I said, to meet Danny and talk. And I did ask him to be a part of the Gold Corner. I did read up on his daughter, on Miranda, just a little bit. When I do this, I don't like to read a lot into it. That way, when the story's being told, I get to hear it also firsthand. So I'm happy and I'm blessed to be joined this afternoon by Danny and Jennifer Eckard from Denver, North Carolina as well. So David, thank you so much. Danny, I'm sorry. Thank you so much for having reached out to me. And the conversations that we've had, the advice that you've given me, it's helped me out a lot. And I know that you all are doing great work also, that you do have an organization that you will be talking about. But we want to hear the story of your warrior. We want to hear the story of Miranda, of this brave warrior who is continuing to change lives and is going to continue to change lives. And we're going to continue to speak about her and keep her legacy going and speak about the true warrior and fighter that she is. So once again, Danny, Jennifer, thank you so much for being a part of this. And the floor is yours.
Thank you for having us.
Yeah, thank you so much, Joelle. It's been a lot to me communicating with you over the last couple of weeks. So what you did with Justin and Jessica Lincoln. One of the biggest fears of losing Miranda is that people will forget about her. Who she was, how awesome she was. Most of the people in our lives, we're 6.5 years removed from her past. And most of the people in our lives actually never even met her. And that's hard sometimes. So, you giving families like ours an opportunity to kind of tell our story allows those new people in our lives a glimpse into what we went. And so, that's priceless to us, man. So thank you so much for that. And, that it's just awesome what you're doing. And I did have a chance to watch, your story, Mia's story. And I invite everybody watching this to please go on your YouTube channel and watch that story. And I've told you a couple of times, but truth be told, I could only watch about 20 minutes at a time because it was just so emotional and it brought back a lot of memories. So, yeah, man, we're in this club together. It's bittersweet to be meeting you. Because had we not went, what the hell that we met each other. But I'm glad we're meeting each other now. We had Miranda. She was born in 1997. We were still in high school when we had her. And so I was a senior in high school. She was a sophomore, so 18 and 16 years old. We found out we were going to have a baby. We knew eventually we would get married anyway. So we were like, let's do it. So we got married over Christmas break. We found out on Halloween, that we were pregnant, and we got married over Christmas break. and we had Miranda over Easter break. So, so kind of crazy. Were, you know, very, very supportive of us. You know, they helped us out. And
we were very fortunate to have parents willing and able to help. And that's not everybody's situation. So we were very fortunate. But yeah, I think because we were so young, Miranda kind of grew up with us, and we always joke, she never knew she was the child. I think she thought she was in charge most of the time. And that stopped, even through treatment. She was very much in charge.
Yeah, and we continued on and went to college and graduated college on time, and, you know, both started pretty. You know, Miranda just was right there with us, growing up with us, you know, and, you know, we made the best of every situation. We traveled well, you know, we did everything as a family. We went everywhere together. You know, it was 2 weeks into her freshman year in high school. So this was in 2011. 2 weeks into high school, start, you know, 2 weeks into high school, 9th grade, we were training for basketball. She was a really good basketball player, and she was a starting guard the year before in middle school, very good basketball player. And we would train year round, you know, she and I would train. And like I said, 2 weeks here, there was a couple nights in she training, and that was not like her. And in my mind, I was thinking, okay, we got this 14-year-old girl. Maybe I'm losing her in basketball. You know, maybe I'm losing. But in my heart, I knew that wasn't the case, because she was very good. She was very competitive. And anyway, a couple nights in a row, she was just really tired. Couldn't get her off the couch. Noticed a couple of bruises on her legs. And about the third day of this, I noticed there must have been 40 bruises, about dime-sized bruises on her legs.
All over. And
I was like, what are you doing? Are you and your friends like paintballing each other? Or what are you guys doing? And she said, Dad, I'm not doing anything. No, I don't know what this is. And so, of course, Google, and immediately, no matter what it is, it's a sort of cancer, right? So, you know, that's Google told us that get her to the doctor immediately, because you know, I took her to the local doctor right here, and he did quick blood work and immediately sent us uptown, we call it uptown here, sent us to uptown, and we got there. They had a room ready for us, and they told us, you know, we need to do a bone marrow aspiration. The people that don't know what that is, the very first thing they do is they kind of check your blood, check your vitals, and that tells them, okay, we need to get some bone marrow out of your hip to check your bone marrow, because your bone marrow is what, you know, generates blood system, your white and red blood cells. And so they did that the next, and later on that afternoon, we went this healthy, beautiful, you know, girl to being told that she has leukemia. And so, you know, that was shattering, obviously. And they said, we're going to start a chemo regimen. And, you know, so they started that. And, you know, that was our new life for, you know, next 3 weeks. We were staying at the hospital for, you know, this was 3 weeks. So 3 weeks later, a doctor comes in and says, you know, we told you that she had leukemia and we started you on this chemo, but she actually doesn't have leukemia. And, you know, and he was, I'm not going to name his name, but it was a very situation. And Miranda actually yelled him to get out of the room because his bedside manner was awful. He actually said, you just went from a, you know, 70% chance of making it through leukemia. It's 20 to 30% making it through what you now know you have, which is rhabdomyosarcoma. It's a tumor-based cancer. There was in the soft tissue. They're never found it at the very end. You know, 2.5 years later, It was just in her bone marrow, which is the worst place to have cancer because it goes throughout your body.
I think only 10% of rhabdo cases start in the bone marrow and don't have a tumor.
Yeah. And it turns out we had a awesome doctor, Dr. Bolin. She kind of took over after that, and she was our primary, cancer doctor. And she kind of explained to us what happened. It was diagnosed as leukemia, but when she put the blood cells under the microscope, there was a couple of markers there that just didn't look like leukemia.
She's looking at 200 cells under the microscope, and 4 of them don't look right to her. So before they started chemo, they said there's a 98% chance that she has leukemia. There's a 2% she has something else. We're going to send it to St. Jude's for further pathology, just to confirm. But St. Jude's was backed up, and they waited about 3 days to see if St. Jude's would get back, but they couldn't. So we're going to go ahead and start her on the protocol for leukemia because that is most likely what she has. It ended up not being that. It was the worst case scenario, but that first round of chemo was actually pretty successful in fighting back the rhabdomyosarcoma. Our daughter Miranda actually reacted very well to it. But then, like Danny said, we went from your leukemia has a 70% 5-year survival rate to you now have 20 to 30% at best. But here she is, she's reacting very well to it. Her bone marrow aspirations are looking well. After her counts came back from the first round of the leukemia treatment, she was now on the correct protocol for rhabdomyosarcoma. It was going well, but it was harsh. She had mucositis.
Pneumonia.
Yeah, she had colitis at one point, but really, really handled it pretty well. And by, I think, February, so everything started in late September of 2011. And by February of 2012, she was clinically in remission, I guess is what they would call it. They didn't have any more cancer cells present, but she had to finish that protocol, which was a 54-week protocol. So she was going to be in treatment till Halloween without any setbacks. Of course, there were 2 or 3 times where we had setbacks. So she was actually in treatment till just after Thanksgiving of 2012.
But that first day, Joelle, we were there, like I said, having this healthy, athletic, 14-year-old. We were there like 35 days straight, hospital, from 0 to that. I mean,
you went straight from the doctor's office, and I met you down there. But we went in not knowing that we were just going to be there for 35 days.
Yeah, and then we would get to come over that year, 13, 14-month period. We were, only home a week out of every 4 weeks, 3, 4 weeks. So we'd be in the hospital for 3, 4 weeks, and then we come home for a week and then go back for 3 or 4 weeks.
Just that first part, because after that she had some clinic, it was outpatient chemo too.
Yeah.
But even when we were home, it's oddly enough like being in lockdown now. You only went out for the essentials. She had to wear a mask everywhere she went.
Her immunity was really low because the chemo knocks your white blood cells down and all of that. But we got, we then got. This is in end of
2012. She was done with treatment. We thought things were going well. She had kept up with school this whole time. I don't know how she did that on all the medications she was on, all the stress she was under, but she did, and she was doing really well in school. She was set to go back when second semester started in January of 13. She's ready to go back, and so for about 4 months. So we were sailing right along. We thought this is behind us. She's getting better. We're getting further and further out from the last chemo. Her checkups are going well. And then in early May of 2013, she had a bump on her hand that just would not go away. And we had just had scans and
radiation.
We just had scans just as part of her, 3-month routine or whatever. And we were told they were clear. So we said, well, we'll just wait till we get back to the clinic in a couple of weeks and we'll have them take a look at it. And so we did, and the doctor said, I need you to go over to, because we were in the clinic portion. She said, I'm going to send you to radiology right now. I'm going to have them x-ray it and do some other scans right away. And it turned out it was a tumor. So it was already back, just 4 months off of treatment. It's already back. And it was, she had to have surgery to remove it, and then radiation. And we thought, okay. And she had to go on some maintenance chemo. We thought, okay, this has got it. We might be okay here. And during that, Dr. Bolin, wonderful main doctor at Hemby's, had kind of pushed her Make-A-Wish granting up a bit. So we got to plan all that. She got to go to New York for Fashion Week that September. Very excited. She was all about fashion, and that was just an amazing. We've spoken several times about that, but that was a real boost for her. Probably one of the best things we ever did. We joked before that she was kind of like a cat. She kind of just slept and snacked all day, and prowled around the house at night. But when we went for Fashion Week, she took one nap. We were there 4.5 days. She shows. She got that make a end. She met designers that they had planned, but she ended up meeting her favorite model. They just happened to be at the same show. And when she saw that Miranda had a Make-A-Wish button on, she's like, come over here, let's take pictures. And there are pictures of Miranda, and she's just weeping with joy. And that was a completely unplanned moment. That was probably one of the best. And we weren't in that fashion show, didn't have enough tickets for that one. So, we're waiting outside, and her best friend is sending us pictures of our child. Just
yeah, we're walking down the street crying. And had Make-A-Wish events, in front of 500 people several times about how that experience. I mean, they cured her cancer that week we were there.
Yes, and
that was this experience. I struggle sometimes when I think about. I always think that there's somebody worse off than us, right? Like those families that lose their child in a car accident. It was instant. They didn't get to say goodbye. And you kind of said it when we were first getting on here. We do it or not, we got to say goodbye for years. We got to say goodbye for 2.5 years, and we had some really good times through that. Right after the Make-A-Wish trip, so literally the next week, she and I went up to Baltimore to start a bone marrow transplant at Johns Hopkins. And we lived there for
3 months,
from September all the way to Christmas Eve, the week of Christmas.
The week before. Yeah.
And, Jennifer had to here, and we're kind of coming back and forth. Stayed at the Ronald McDonald House to start.
And then the Believe in Tomorrow house.
Yeah. And we had a great time in Baltimore, even though we were going through hell.
It was,
so we just tried to make the best of it. Ever since she was born, we tried to make the best of everything. We got pregnant young. We made the best of that. We did what we did for the next 14 years. And then sick, we made the best, tried to make the best of all of that. She got her driver's license, before she passed away. And I bought her a car that I probably would otherwise buy. I bought her a really nice car, and we just made the best of it. And through it all, we had so many people like the nurses. I've heard other people on your channel, the nurses, and they make that family environment. And there's so many of them that I'm still good friends with.
I joke that they spoiled her a little too much. Whatever she wanted, whatever she felt like she might like to eat or they were just always right there to bring it to her. And I'm like, y'all are making it difficult at home. She just expected that from everyone.
Yeah.
But our nurses were amazing. Child life specialists. For a teenager, they are a real lifeline, and we were blessed to have some of the best ones. I mean, it's hard for an adult sometimes to really connect with a teenager. Teenagers are a little more savvy to what's going on. They can tell when you're just patronizing them. And she had child life specialists that were not. They just connected with her on so many levels. And she had Arts for Life, the Arts for Life program. Just all the things they did to keep her spirits up through all these treatments, because chemo is harsh. It is poison, and it's, the only option we currently have. And it's so hard on your system. And the fact that she could still keep smiling through all of that, and she embraced her bald head. I mean, she wore a wig for a while, and after that, she's like, never mind. She had she had like the two hats that she would wear, and or she would just go bald.
She had the best little peanut head, so
she
could rock that. But people in our community, that honestly in our neighborhood here, we had never even met, and they were coming over and mowing our yards. They were, people looking after our animals, Jennifer's parents looking after our animals. And
I mean, for 2.5 years, not just in the beginning.
Yeah.
The whole time.
Just for 2.5 years.
After she passed away, I had to tell the neighbors, like, you don't have to mow our yard anymore. Because even when we were home, even when she was off treatment, they were still coming over. They're like, you just need to be with her. Don't worry about the stuff. And so we didn't. We spent our time with her.
Yeah. And so then a couple other things we did. So Lindsay, her best friend, practically her sister, she was here like every day. If we were here every day with Miranda. And, she got to go with us on the Make-A-Wish trip. And she also, when we got back from Baltimore, we actually got to come home the week before Christmas and surprise the whole family, because they told us it would be sometime in January before we could come home. We drove down and surprised everybody. I'll never forget. We pulled up her near her dad's house, and he was a dog, and he saw us and he just started crying. It was like the best thing ever.
But Miranda rolled down the window and like stuck her whole upper half out like a puppy, and she's just
yeah, that was the best. And then unfortunately that was our last Christmas with her. And Jennifer doesn't know I'm going to say this, but I'm really mad at God about something. Jennifer had an attack like literally Christmas Eve. And she and I had to be, I was going to be with her because I would never let her be alone in the hospital. But Miranda's last Christmas, her getting gallbladder surgery. And it's obviously not Jennifer's fault. I'm not 1 ounce mad at Jennifer about it, but I am still bitter at God. Because that was our last Christmas. And, Miranda had a Christmas though. She spent it with, our parents, and then she actually even came to the hospital, and
then she spent it with Lindsay, which is
and we gave her gifts, and from the hospital. And then this was right after the bone marrow transplant. We were very hopeful.
We were told there's no reason to think it won't be effective. Danny was this was a clinical trial at Johns Hopkins, and Danny was her bone marrow donor. They wanted to try a half match approach to say, maybe putting the identical bone marrow in there will have the same reaction, which is not what we want. So let's try a half match, and maybe the bone marrow will react differently and fight this cancer better and get rid of it. So Danny was her donor, and it was.
And the way they explained it was pretty awesome, Joelle. They said that as the parent, your cells are gonna like go in there and attack the cancer, and it's like pretty awesome thought.
They're all Papa Bear.
But unfortunately that didn't work. I think the only thing she got from it was an instant craving for bourbon and barbecue. I like to joke about that.
She really did. I mean, it's funny, but
yeah, a couple months later,
we went back in January for scans. I flew back up with her, and it just was a very uneasy, unsettling trip all the way around. And she was very anxious the whole time. But we went up there, stayed one night and came back the next day after they had done the scans they had to do. And they said, well, things don't look right in the hand. So we need to do another set. So the rest of the scans were done here in Charlotte. She refused to go back to Baltimore after that. And we got those results after everything. It was February 13th. We had a big snow come through the day before. She went to the hospital first thing in the morning, got her scans, and it was snowing on our way back home. The next day, the doctor calls, and we're all home because of the bad weather, so that was good because it was just a weekday. Doctor said her cancer is back. It is very aggressive this time, and we are out of options. And that's the hardest thing to hear. So
yeah, she screamed instantly. She had been so strong throughout everything, and she just screamed. She's like, "What the hell? You know, why does it keep doing this?" And that's a sound that you never want to hear as a parent. So, you know, we're kind of trying to paint a rosy picture here, and we do that when we talk to people. But man, for 2.5 years, other than a couple great things that happen, hell on earth. As you well know, it's hell on earth to see your child sleep 21 hours a day, just to wake up to eat real quick, early go back to sleep.
To miss out on so many things because they can't be with their friends. And she was lucky, you know, Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter and instant messaging with her friends and everything kind of kept her connected, but she didn't get to go out with them. She didn't get to run around with them or really participate in high school outside of the first couple of weeks and then the few months of her hair. I was, once they told us that, I couldn't not cry in front of her. So I'm crying. She goes, "Why are you crying?" She got mad. She said, "Why are you crying? The doctors are wrong all the time, and they are wrong now. I am fine." You know, she just had that very attitude. She was not going to let this get her down. And she actually at one point came and sat on her dad's lap, and she's like, "We're not giving up, are we? We're going to find something. We're going to do something." And so we did some maintenance chemo, and, you know, her doctors really into it. And, you know, with this being this was her second relapse. This is the third time she's had it. There's really nothing left at that point because it's a rare cancer and it's not that well researched. So it was hard. The doctor said, "Well, you know, she really should be feeling a lot worse than she is. I don't know how she can't, but if there's some place she wants to go, if there's a trip she wants to take, do it and do it now."
So literally that night we asked her where she wanted to go. If any place in the world, where do you want to go? And she said she would like to go to Santorini, Greece. You know, the little beautiful islands. You've probably seen it. But literally that night I booked a trip for all of us, and we took her best friend Lindsay, and we went. We were there for a week, and you know, on trip was really hard on her. And she did a lot of sleeping there and a lot of just kind of watching her phone, and Lindsay was right there with her. We
were there 5 days, and there were 2 days where she really felt good, and we got out and we did what we could on the island. It was their off season, so there wasn't a whole lot open, but that worked for her because it wasn't crowded and she could just walk around and see it.
Yeah, it was the first week of February.
No, March.
But you know, we came back and just kind of kept her, you know, she just slept all the time. She was on so much medicine, on these patches that they had to put on her back just to have constant, like, a release of pain meds.
Yeah, there were tumors pressing on nerves in places, and it just, you know, the maintenance chemo worked for a while. It got her through that trip in March, but by March, early April, she just really wasn't able to do a whole lot.
Yeah, I mean, I had to carry her up and down the stairs just because she wasn't even strong. And I mean, this is a 17-year-old kid. She wasn't like a newborn.
She did manage to go to one prom with her friend Ken in late April, and she felt really well and enjoyed that one. And then her own prom was in May, just part, and she got dressed and went to her friend's house for group pictures, and there's like 30 or 40 kids there all doing their pictures and getting ready to go. And she told her date, she said, I just can't, you're gonna have to go without me. And so
she just didn't have the energy and
yeah,
just in so much pain.
So-
But she had, there was another time at the end where she felt really good, and she went to a basketball game or pep rally or something.
It was early July, so school was out.
Okay.
When she felt good enough to go to her friend Fallon's graduation party. It was just like a small family party. So she wanted to go to that for a few hours, and she managed to do that. And that was in June. But she was worn out for days after that. And then about the 4th of July, she started feeling good. She started having some energy and feeling good. And she didn't tell us this, but she felt good enough to stop taking several of her pain medications. One of them being Ativan, and Ativan is also used to prevent seizures. So if you suddenly stop taking it without weaning off of it, it causes a seizure. And you were home with her the day.
Yeah, so I went upstairs to check on her because like I said, she would sleep like 21 hours a day. So, I would just check on her all the time. And I went in there and I
heard a coughing noise, right?
I heard her coughing, and it just so happened I was lucky enough to go in there at the right time because she was having a seizure. And I called 911. The firemen came right away, put us in an ambulance and took us down. And that was the scariest moment other than her, the day she passed. I know families that have kids or even adults that have seizures, and that is a scary thing. So, we went down for that, and then, not long after that, she, basically hospice was coming to the house, and at
a point where she was very uncomfortable. That's when they started the pain patches, and it got to the point where she asked for a shower chair. She could not get comfortable no matter what. She was sleeping all day, and then she would be wired all night but couldn't get comfortable. And there was one day I was home with her one day while he went to his office, because he was home with her almost every day. So I would have one day a week where I'd stay with her and he could go into work. But she was in hospice to come back that afternoon, evening, to see what else they could do. And while she on them, she tells me, she's like, Mom, go work, and because Dad's home now out. And Cindy Jo, our hospice, was amazing. We'll be here in a little bit and it'll be fine. But she just didn't want me to be here when she told him that she needed to go to the hospital, that it just wasn't working out for her. And that was the final trip. He called me while I was at the gym, and he said, go into the hospital. And I said, is this it?
Yeah.
He had to tell me that.
I knew when she wanted to go to the hospital because she knew the IV medicine was just stronger and quicker. And on a Friday.
It was a Tuesday.
Okay. And our Dr. Bolin, she said that she probably would not make it through the weekend.
But they had also said in February she has 3 or 4 months at most, and here we are at the end of July. So we're just hoping that they're wrong again, because you don't want to face what's going to happen.
So come Friday, she said a couple things to us in the morning. We prayed, and
that was the last day we let people see her.
yeah, we told the doctors and the nurses and everything to shut it down. We just want to have our time with her. This was Friday morning, and so she didn't really speak after that morning. She upping the pain meds. And so she kind of went unconscious, and we just held her hand, and we woke up Saturday morning, and we turned all the lights down. We put on like some what I call spa music, and kind of just held her hand all day and laid with her. And
it's about 6:30.
Yeah, you just watch that monitor, and it was just us. People did come that day, and they. After about the third person, I said, "Don't even tell us that people are here. I don't want to know. I just want to focus on this." And we held her hand and watched her pass away. And like I said before, we got a long time to say goodbye, including her last day. One of the other nurses that was in there all day checking in on us, she's like, "This is the most peaceful room I've ever been in." It was like so peaceful all day. It was kind of like best case scenario, saying goodbye to your child. Again, we always try to make the best of everything, and I guess we made the best of that too. And so she had told us a couple of weeks before that, she's like, I wrote some letters, and I'm going to hide them in my room. And
she told me it was a green notebook, and that if something should happen to her, we were to get that green notebook.
And that little turd, she hid that thing so well, because I don't think she wanted us to see it like before she passed. So we came home. We turned on her lamp in her bedroom because it was dark, and we must have looked for an hour for that stupid notebook.
I don't remember that part. I thought she showed me where it was. And
we looked for an hour. I remember clearly, and we finally found it. And the first page, she had written us a letter, and it basically said, "Go make yourself some milk and cookies.
Sit on my floor and cry.
Play this song, and I want you to cry. And then
when the song's over,
you get to work because you got some things to do." She wrote a series of letters to a couple of.
She wrote letters
to a couple of friends and a couple of teachers, and every time I read them, I'm like, "How do you write a letter like that?"
And she had a couple letters she didn't finish. Like, she just could not.
Yeah, her hands were just so probably tired and sore. She just would just trail off, and she might have fell asleep in the middle of writing them. But she wrote a couple letters to two of her teachers, and she said she wanted to honor her at a football game every year, and they've done an awesome job of that, going yellow. And it's really cool what they've done. And we had the great fortune to have worked for companies that we didn't lose one single paycheck throughout the whole thing. We both continued to work. We didn't give up any responsibilities, but we also, didn't, lose any pay. So, but there were people out there that, when you see a child going through cancer, they think immediately the only way they know how to help is to donate money or fundraise and things like that. So we were lucky that there were several people in our community that did that. And so we started a 501c3, we started a bank account, and we just took every money that they raised and put it in this account. And knowing one day that we would, and this was like right when she was diagnosed.
Well, we didn't start the 501c3 yet.
Well, we had the account. And so, we were able, after she passed away, we created this organization called Fight With Me, and the ME is Miranda Eckard. So that's where the ME comes from. So Fight With Me, and we people donate to it. We have several fundraisers every year, and we give out scholarships at the high school, and we help people kind of under the radar in the community. And 100% of the money that goes in goes out. We don't
to
take
scholarships or to the. We also things at her old clinic and hospital. We work with the social workers there to, especially teens, because it's easier to figure out what little kids need or to help their parents. But teens are a little underserved just because, they're not the cute little kids anymore. You know what I mean? The whole St. Jude's aspect of it all. Miranda was a teenager herself. We try to focus there, but we do give to any family at the clinic that's in need as much as we can.
And it allows us, sort of selfishly, it allows us an opportunity to talk about her. It allows us, people raise this money, and it's just awesome what he does. They raise this money, and they donate to our charity, and then we get to get up in front of the whole high school and talk Miranda was for 2 minutes, and we get to put care packages together at the clinic, iTunes cards, gift cards, things like, put a little letter of who Miranda was. So, you and I talked about this when we first got on, how, I think people, even still with us 5 years later, they are nervous to bring it up, because they think it might be really sad for us. And it is sad, but it's like, honestly, my favorites as well.
Yeah. Like you said in the beginning, after a few years, you start to worry that people are forgetting her, that she's not remembered as much. So speaking about her, bringing her up, just lets us know that people still care. Easier than thinking that everyone's forgotten.
So we both made career changes. We were both in accounting. She still does some accounting, but more from home. And I switched careers as well. But, throughout it all, we, at least me, I don't want to speak for you, but, I didn't talk to God for a couple of years. We were not on speaking terms. Well, I wasn't. He spoke very loudly a few times until finally I listened. And I want to share that story. Right after Miranda passed, and for a good year, I was indifferent to God. I didn't hate him, just was indifferent. I didn't. And we both grew up in the church. We both had very strong Christian backgrounds. And so about a year after Miranda passed, we decided that we were barely young enough to have another child.
We were so young when we had Miranda. And once we got to a place in life where we could even think about having another kid after Miranda, we were just like, we didn't want to. She was our own, and we were finally in a place in our lives where we could have some fun and things didn't have to be hard every day.
Yeah.
So we just enjoyed it with her, and then we thought, well, we're done, and that's fine, good.
Yeah.
But when we lost her, one day he was in the office here at home, and I went in there and I said, just because we decided when Miranda was healthy that we didn't want children, don't think that has to be the case now. We could talk about that if you want to. And as soon as I finished that sentence, he looks at me and goes, okay, good, because I want a girl and a boy. I said, I don't know what I thought that, but we can give it a try. So I did make us wait a year. I said, it's never been just the two of us. We had Miranda right away. We lived with my parents right away. So let's take a year and just be the two of us and just make sure that we're solid and we're okay. And we're not doing this to replace Miranda, but do this. And so we did that. And
and the part I was talking about, God speaking very loudly and saying, hey man, I'm still here. I'm still here with you. I'm still here for you. When we went to the doctor to find, confirm that we were in fact pregnant, we walk in and we go to check in, and behind the nurse is several Audrey Hepburn things, on the wall. And Miranda loved Audrey Hepburn. So I was just like, that's kind of cool. That's kind of cool. So then we go and sit down at the, in the waiting room, and there's one of those huge coffee tables with
magazines everywhere.
Probably 50 magazines, stacked up on this table. And literally right where we sat on the corner of this,
Us Weekly or something like that.
This coffee table was People magazine.
Oh.
But all you could see is the corner of the People magazine. And Joelle, I'm not kidding, it said Life After Miranda. And it was, you move the magazine on top of it, and it was, Blake Shelton and Miranda Lambert.
But still.
But, my gosh.
Like, what do you do with that?
Life After Miranda, really? I was like, Jennifer, look at that. I mean, I took a picture of it. It was unbelievable. So then they call us back, and the nurse that is going to do the sonogram.
Yeah.
Her name was Miranda. I mean, so that's like, that was like, when we left that, I was just like, obviously, I was flooding with emotion. Just saw our new, new baby that we were going to have, but also those things happening. And I was like, okay, God, I hear you, man. I hear you. And we bought Sirius XM in our radio in our cars, and I just was flipping around, and I came across Message, which is a contemporary Christian channel. And man, I listened to that channel all the time. And music was a big thing with Miranda. She and I would always like try to find new music, and that was our thing, like try to find music before the other person did. And like stuff would come on the radio, and like 2 years later, we were like, yeah, we've been listening to that for 2 years.
This was before subscription services for Spotify and Apple Music and all that. You had to buy songs, and oh my God, our monthly iTunes, unreal. We told everyone, just give her iTunes cards so that, we don't, she just would burn through those, and then she'd get some more songs.
So we Jennifer had a perfect pregnancy with our now 4.5-year-old, and we had it was perfect. And
she's a handful. She's like, she's a test from God.
So she's sometimes a test, and she's perfectly healthy. And, anytime we see something or something happens, we kind of like probably overreact. But
hold her breath a little bit. Yeah.
That was God's gift. I feel like that was God's gift to us, to allow us that second chance. And, we've just been helped so much. And there's just right around the corner here, there's a gentleman by the name of Smith who started a Bible study a couple years ago. And I've been going to that, and he does an awesome job leading that. And, God and we're good now, man. We're good now. There's been other things, just, obviously we can't sit here and tell you every story, but, what I want people to know is that, we did paint a rosy picture, and we like to joke and kid, as you can tell just from this, short video. But it was hell on earth, as you know, Joelle. I just want people to respect each other, not just people who've went through something like this, but just respect people and kind of think about, you don't know where they come from, hell they went through as a kid or still are going through now. So, just respect people. Don't talk down to them. And I'm really big on respecting people, man. I that's just really important to me. Miranda's basketball team, we had a thing, and I taught it in the very first practice every year, where if your teammate or a player on the other team falls down, you reach down and you pick them up. And it was funny, man. There were times where like a player would fall down and 2 or 3 girls would run over and like try to help him up. And I kind of got kind of crazy, but that's just like, that's me, man. I want people to be respectful, and You know, when you meet somebody, like people that meet us today, they don't know our story. They don't know what we went through. And we just want respect, and we get it most of the time, but there are people out there that have been through much worse even. And they don't get the respect.
Yeah, well, thank you. Thank you so much for sharing Miranda's story. I just wanted to touch on one thing. Well, I mean, the whole story had me in tears and in awe. But just when you mentioned that you were mad at God for a while, and see, people do not understand this, and people that have not gone through what we have, and me growing up as a youth pastor, me growing up in church, you know, people people are always going to tell you what God doesn't give you more than you can handle. God does. They haven't been in our shoes. They have not been in our shoes, and we have every right to question. We have every right to be mad. We have every right to even doubt at times. And I've been there, and I know you've been there too. And that is one thing that some people should not. We talked about this in the podcast, is how some people shouldn't say certain things. You know what I mean? But when this whole thing is it's a test of your faith. It's what you're gonna do with it. It's God does allow these things to happen, but He allows these things to happen so we can seek Him, so we can look for Him. The parents that we had last week said, a lot of other people have it worse than us, and yes, we're not the first parents, and unfortunately we're not the last parents that are going to go through this. So by creating this, by creating a group, by creating this family, we can be there of support to other parents that are currently going through the same thing, or that are about to go through the same thing. And you get to that point where when you got that phone call, and this is, I'm always going to be very big, and again, I might sound like a broken record, but we get 4 pennies on the dollar for childhood cancer research. And that is why, even though the doctors can be good, the nurses can be good, they're limited. It comes to a point where there's not enough research, that they don't know what they can do, or they don't know what else to do. And that shouldn't be the case. There should be, plan B, plan C, plan D, but to the point where they're like, well, we don't know what else to do. It's something that, I don't know, that it still baffles me. And I don't know, somehow we're all gonna make a difference. And just sharing Miranda's story, there's, I've had other parents that have had teenagers, young ladies, and young men that have been diagnosed, and it's different than a child, because a child at a certain point, or they don't know any different. They think that living in a hospital is what every kid goes through. Our parents last week said that their youngest son told his older sister, hey, when you were my age and you were in the hospital, because that's what they think, that's normal. Mm-hmm. But once they've grown up and have friends and doing all this, people have, I don't know. Sometimes they say, well, I don't know what's harder, losing a child when they were younger, or having lived more with them. And they're, either way, losing a child is just going to be, and I don't like to use that word. I don't like to use that word, Danny, losing a child. Our child passed, and our children are not lost. We know where they are, and we know, like you said, just the respect that we need to have for other people, the love that we have to have for other people, to one day be able to be with our children and be rejoicing for eternity, where they are in a perfect place. They're, they don't have any more pain. They're not going through pokes. They're not going through chemos and this poison that's being pumped in their blood, and it's just, shutting them down. They're not going through that anymore. And I just think it's awesome what you're doing with the fight with me, the whole meaning behind it, the ME, in just helping other people. I know that your story now has helped me out a lot. I'm still not yet where you all are. It's 2 years out for me, so it's still kind of fresh. And we were talking off camera here of how difficult of a time I'm having, obviously still. And I do this channel, and a lot of the times I do it with zero strength, but this is my goal now. This is what I want to create here with the Gold Corner, and to be able to speak, and for you to be able to share this story once it's on the net, and have everybody know about Miranda, about this girl that she was, growing up. And when you guys having her in high school, not only was she your daughter, I'm sure she grew up being your friend as well,
Absolutely.
being some young parents. So doing this, so thank you so much. Danny, I'm gonna ask both of you individually, and let me start. I'll start with Jennifer here. And if you've seen my videos, I always ask parents to give advice. And whenever you guys give advice, I'm the first one to take it, and mostly because I get to see this before it actually airs on Sunday. So I always take that to heart. But Jennifer, being a young mother and having gone through this with your daughter, and I don't know, I think it's probably more difficult what you all went through, because as far as Mia went, she told us, and you saw from the video, she told us when she was leaving, but she did not have all the knowledge that Miranda had growing up, and having lived those years. And for a teenager to know that their time is coming to an end, or that their time might be coming to an end, I'm sure that could be scary. Well, first of all, I want to ask this question from both. How did she take that? I know that we touched a little bit, and if you don't feel comfortable sharing with us, I completely understand. But how did she take that? Because we do have a lot, and I do have parents that talk to me that have teenagers that are going through the same thing, or that have relapsed, and I cannot give them advice because my situation is different. But what is it that Miranda went through, and how did you handle that situation?
Well, I mean, in front of us, to us, she really did not say, well, I know I'm dying. She didn't want us to think that she was giving up, because she didn't want us to give up. So for her, every once in a while, there would be slips. Like, she had a really good friend, and they decided they were going to grow up and live together side by side on a lake nearby here. And that was, they were going to have families who were best friends and all this. And she was talking about it one day, and this was that May before she passed away. And then you could just see a look come over her face where she realized she wasn't going to get to do that. And even though she didn't say it out loud, like you see her coming to those realizations. When she relapsed that last time, like I said, she was very defiant at first. She was angry, she was defiant, she did not believe this was going to happen to her. But at that same time, days time, she went into her room and she took that notebook and started the process of writing those letters. Now, she didn't do it all at one time, but she started then. And so I think she didn't really let herself believe that it was going to happen until pretty close to the end. I think one of the nurses, who was his daughter, happened, I don't know, she came to visit one day, and they had a talk like that. And she kind of filled us in that Miranda knew it was going to happen, that she believed in God and Jesus, and she was making her peace with it. I don't remember much of that conversation that came.
For me, the clear indicator is that she wrote those letters. She knew it was going to happen, and she didn't know when, obviously, but she knew it was going to happen. She wrote those letters in February, I believe.
Started, yeah.
And it was a proper letter, and she knew it was going to happen.
But I don't think she wanted us to know that she knew. She was 17 years old, and she's still trying to protect us.
I remember when she tried to tell me about the letters, and I thought about this often lately. I should have talked to her a little more about it, because I was just like, oh, don't worry about those. Don't even worry about them. We're not going to need those for a long time. I kind of wish I would have used that opportunity to talk to her a little more. She knew where she was going. That was no question. She knew where she was going. But I wish I would have taken that opportunity to say, how are you feeling? I don't know that she would have given me the real hard answer. But I wish I would have. I've thought about it often lately. I wish I would have had that discussion.
Honestly, the last conversation we had with her in that hospital, she had woken up Friday morning and we knew some family was coming a little bit later. So we wanted to talk to her, just the three of us. And we were afraid this would be our last chance. We're sitting there, we're crying, trying to stop crying so we can wake her up. But she wakes up anyway. Mom, Dad, why are you crying? What's going on? It's like, we just wanted to talk to you. Just tell you that we love you and that you don't have to, if you're tired, just rest and let go. She's like, are you crying? I'm fine. Let's take a walk. And at this point, we know she can't walk. She can't get up and walk. She's on too many pain meds and hooked up to so many things. And the nurse comes in at that point and she's like, can you unhook me? I want to go for a walk with my parents. And we said, well, how about let's just sit here together and watch a movie. She's like, okay, yeah. So we put in The Princess Bride. She decides she wants a little cup of pudding and she ate maybe 2 bites and fell asleep. And that was really the last conversation. So even then, in the last conversation, trying to convince us that she's fine.
She was you asked a minute ago what you want us to say to maybe other families going through this. Justin and Jessica, we knew Mikey. We met him. He came to our house and they wrestled. We'd be having a discussion over in the kitchen and we'd look over and there's like a WWF fight over here in the living room, like rolling around. And, Justin and I joke about that all. They would have been a main event at like a Mania or something at some point. But we knew him. They never knew Miranda. We met them at past, but, he and I and Jessica, we've had many conversations, about where they are, because we're a few years ahead of them, 6 years ahead of them in our journey. And, God put them in God put each other in each other's paths, right? So that we could be their support. And they've been our support. But yeah, what I would say is just be there, just listen. Sometimes people just want to talk about what's going on and they don't want you to talk to them. They just want to talk. And so my biggest advice is just invite them over, go have a beer and just listen. Just listen. And when they ask, give them your honest answer. Don't hold anything back. When Mikey was going through his treatments, Justin and I had many conversations and, I tried to prepare him. He asked me hard questions and I gave him hard answers that this could be what happens. And I want you to be prepared for it. And he always appreciated that, I think. And you be lifelong friends because we're just like you, Joel, we're in this club that we never want to be in. And man, I want to offer you anytime. We don't have to just Facebook message. You can call me up, man. And if you're having a bad day, I'll listen, man. And I don't offer that lightly. I just want to thank you for this opportunity because you don't know how amazing this is. We haven't talked like this long about it in a while. So this opportunity is just priceless. And I want to thank you, man.
I think this is the most in-depth we've ever talked about it because usually for speaking, it's
like 5 minutes, 10 minutes.
Yeah, it's in context of something. It's senior night at the high school. So you want to focus on how much she loved that high school because she really did. Or if it's Make-A-Wish, you want to focus on that trip.
This is a pretty comprehensive, retelling.
But as far as advice would go, I would, to parents going through this or new to this or like this is on the horizon for them. There's no timetable. I know people think you should be able to do some steps and be right, be back to normal, but it's never going to be the same again. You do learn to live with it and cope with it. And, there is happiness again, but it's it's never quite the same. There's always a little something missing. But you have to do the best that you can. You don't have to do it like anyone else, and you don't have to explain yourself to people.
There are people that are going to judge things you do, and we had some really bad experiences of that. Coming to our doorstep, telling us how we should be handling things and really getting aggressive about it. And we don't talk to them anymore. Plain and simple. Because who the hell are they to come here and tell us that? So yeah, man, just talk to people, man. Talk to us. Talk to, you're doing this and you're able to listen to other stories and keep doing that, man. Because like I said, man, this is so powerful. It's so powerful.
Yeah, it is, and that is exactly why I wanted to create this channel. You did mention, I remember. Well, first of all, for the people that are watching this, when they talk about Justin and Jessica, there were in episode 17, and they told us the story of Warrior Mikey and everything that they went through. So if you want to hear that story, it's episode 17. Danny, I know you said that there was people that went to your door, and nobody should tell you how to grieve or how long you should grieve. I had this, and not to talk bad about them, but I had one of my friends say, well, my friend is a therapist. I think you should go and talk to them. They have a lot of experience. I went, and I think 2 sessions in, I stopped, because he's telling me, well, this is what you should do, and this is how you should grieve. And at that point, I was like, you know what? I respect that you went to school for this, but you're telling me what to do by what you learned in paper. By what you needed to do to get your degree. That's how you're telling me. Have you gone through it? No, I have not. Okay, well then, with all due respect, I think this is done. I don't think I need to see you anymore. I speak to parents such as yourself, and that for somebody that's gone through it, that is who I need to be speaking to, not somebody that has read about it or, wrote this awesome paper to pass this course and be able to do it. No, this is the therapy right here. This is good right here. I remember I also had somebody that I asked them a question, and they answered me straight out, and they told me something I didn't want to hear, but it was the truth. And I didn't want to hear it at that time, because when your child's going through treatment, you're like, okay, they're going to get better. They're going to beat this. They're going to do that. So when somebody says, hey, reality check, you just got to be ready for this, you tend to be like, don't tell me that. Tell me what I want to hear, but this is the cruel reality, and it is what it is. So I'm sure that Justin probably didn't like you at that moment, but now that you all are friends, that I'm sure he appreciates such. I appreciate the people that were straight up with me. I'm gonna ask you both a question that I think this is the first time that I ask while doing these episodes, and I've asked other people. People have different response for this, so I'm curious to hear your response. Does it get better with time? Well, does this all get better?
I think it's different for everyone. For us, if we didn't get to have Everly, I don't know if we'd be where we are now. So for us, that definitely made it make it all better. But you do feel somewhat better. Like I said, it's never going to be 100% normal again, but you do learn how to handle it. You process it, and I don't know that we'll ever be all the way through it or anything like that. You carry your kid with you. I mean, I saw Miranda a lot in those first weeks and months. It was hard because we were used to, if we went somewhere without Miranda just for even a little while, we would check our phones because she would message us and let us know if she needed something.
Usually at the grocery store.
So I would be at work 3 or 4 months down the road. I'm like, oh God, I wonder if Miranda's okay, because it just, you forget for a second. And but that happens less and less. And
I've actually picked up my phone in the last 2 months to text her something. And it's been 6.5 years. For me, that is a great question. I'm not going to sugarcoat my answer. And you're 2 years in, right? 2 years in, Joel?
Yes, it's a little over 2.
I was able to live at about that mark. This year, I get, maybe because it's COVID, lockdown, all that. It's been a hard year. A lot of things have resurfaced. A lot of bad memories. A lot of good memories too. But this has been a hard year, and I think it has been for a lot of people.
Like you said, we're limited in what we can go out and do. So you're at home more. You're thinking more. We're still in the same house that we lived in with Miranda. I don't think we want to leave it. And so you feel those memories. And
I had you mentioned going through a couple sessions of therapy. I was never interested in that until last year, and I met someone in a networking group that I'm in. Her name is Lori Scheibel, and man, she got me.
She just gave you a new way to look at some things.
She's a business coach, and so she helped me professionally. But we did a lot of meditating, and I think it was the second session we did a meditation where she's going through it, and you're just breathing and you're thinking and you're like really in with it. And then she asked me, what are you thinking right now? She's asking me questions like about Miranda and those kind of things. And the word that came out, Joelle, it was so like she reached into my soul and pulled it out. She said, "Tell me the one word you're thinking." And I said, "Lonely." And I'm like, where did that come from? I've got this beautiful wife. I've got this 3-year-old. Why am I lonely? And that word, I've never forgotten. That's probably 1.5 years ago, and I've never forgotten that session. That's exactly what I think and what I think continue to feel sometimes is lonely. Because Miranda, like you said, we were young, my best friend. We were like 2 peas in a pod. We love sports, we love music.
You love to aggravate me together.
Yeah, we love to pick on mom. This Everly is sort of, she's hers. Me, I don't like that.
Oh no, he's having a very hard time with that. But she's coming around. She's like more stuck. Yeah.
That's just a great question of, does it get how does it feel? Does it get easier? It gets different. It doesn't get easier.
I think you just get used to carrying it with you, and so you function.
It's like losing a leg, right? For our child passing, there's a piece of your heart missing. So you somehow find a way to live with this huge piece of your heart missing. And some days are really hard. Some days I go up to bed right when I get home and go to bed. And you just learn to live with it. It doesn't get easier. I hate to say it, but it doesn't. Learn to live with it.
Yeah, and the way you describe it is the way that is the best description that I've had somebody tell me. They said you're like an amputee. You lose a leg, you lose an arm, but you learn to live with it. You adapt. You lost part of your heart, and you're learning how to live without it. You're learning how to adapt. And I'm sure Everly's gonna see her big sister. And her big sister's taking care of Everly right now. So that's beautiful right there. Well, before we finish this, thank you for the advice. Any last words from either of you, something that you want to share before we finish this episode?
I've said it several times, but I just want to thank you again.
Absolutely.
This has been awesome, and I'm going to tell everybody about you. And I want you to please, I know this week's going to be hard. Next month's going to be hard. Birthdays are hard. It's hard all the time, but please, man, just give me a call, reach out to me, and don't hesitate to do that, because we're in this together, unfortunately.
Jen, any last words from you?
No, I think that sums it up.
Okay,
Just
well,
thank you for this, and
thank both of you, and mostly just for being my friends and being my brother and sister. And you're right, we're a part of this broken family, and I want to welcome you to the Gold Corner family. And thank you so much for sharing Miranda's story. Beautiful young lady that we're going to continue to speak about. And like every other child, I will do everything I can to keep all these kids' memories alive, and for people to hear the story over and over. We've had the blessing of the stories that have been featured, that have been shared, a couple hundred times each, some and even thousands. So we're going to continue. We're going to continue to make a difference. We're going to continue to keep our children's memories alive. And I am sure that Miranda and Mia are probably going to be sitting together watching this interview on Sunday, from up there. So I just wanted to say thank you. Thank you for being a great example. Thank you for having done this. And, God willing, once all this COVID thing is done and I had the opportunity to go to Denver, North Carolina, which I've never heard of, and meet you and Jessica and Justin. I think that'd be kind of cool. But yes, thank you so much. And I want to thank everybody again who took the time to watch this episode of the Gold Corner. My reason for doing this is to do exactly this, to create this family, to create this platform to where we can speak about our children, those kids that have battled so hard, the real heroes, the real fighters, and the ones that are currently fighting right now. We are all in this together. We are all a broken family, and we're all part of this Gold Corner, that we're cornering our children that are out there fighting. So want to say thank you so much for tuning in again this week. If you haven't done so, just hit the little subscribe button, because every time you any new subscriber, it does help us promote the channel a little bit more, and it helps us reach other parents and other people that are going through the same thing that need to hear this. So thank you all once again. Remember to live each day to its fullest, because tomorrow is not promised. Pray for your family, pray for your children, pray for our nation, and just hold on a little while longer, because we're almost home. God bless you, and we'll see you next Sunday.